Welcome to Big Blend Radio with Nancy Reed and Lisa Smith, a crazy mother-daughter travel team and publishers of the digital interactive Big Blend Radio and TV magazine and Parks and Travel magazine. You can see them both if you go to bigblendmagazines.com. And today we are talking with photographer Kristen-Reiter about her. Well, she went on the journey, and she's been doing it for quite a while. She's been traveling on the Chief Joseph Trail Ride, and this is a progressive trail ride that is hosted by the Appaloosa-Horse Club. And it basically, a portion of the trail ride is completed every year, with the entire sequence taking 13 years to complete. And we started this conversation about this Chief Joseph Trail Ride with Christy Wood, and she was on our show a couple times, and then we've recently done a show with Christy, as well as Steve Taylor, who is the CEO of the Appaloosa Horse Club. We had Andy Shaw and Irvin on as well, the wranglers who make things happen. But this is really an important thing. What it does is the route traces as closely as possible the route Chief Joseph and the nez-perce took while attempting to escape the U.S. cavalry back in 1877. And pretty much it's an incredible thing. And this trail is something that a lot of us can follow, maybe if you want to walk it, but it is actually part of the National Forest. And it's the 1,170-mile Nez-Perce National Historic Trail. And it was created in 1986 as part of our National Trails System Act. And this year it's our 50-year anniversary of the National Trail System Act. So kudos to that.
That's a lot of miles.
Yeah. I do want to tell everybody, go to appaloosa.com, because if you're going to do this, you have to have an Appaloosa that you're going to be riding. But let's get Kristen on the show. Kristen, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for inviting me.
Hey, we're excited. Your photographs of this, I mean,
amazing.
You're a veterinarian and a photographer that goes on this trail, and we've got all these images from you that, number one, make us want to go and do this, but they are absolutely beautiful. How many times have you been out on this trail? I mean, I know Christy's on her second one, so she's done the full 13 years, and now she's on the second route, or I say second phase for her. How long have you been doing this?
Christy and I actually started the same year, so we started in 2004.
Oh, wow.
So the two of us have ridden the entire 13 segment trail, and we just completed our second leg of the second cycle this past July.
Wow.
So,
wow. And
yeah.
What led you to this? I mean, do you own Appaloosas? I know you're in Whidbey Island, by the way, which we've been covering in our Parks and Travel magazine. It's just so crazy. You're off in the islands in Washington State, which from everything, all our travel writers, I mean, it's just like a beautiful area. What led you to hop the island and go out on the Appaloosa and go on this trail?
Well, I'm not a native to Whidbey. I happened to cross it once I graduated from veterinary school, and it's my paradise now, a little island farm. But I grew up in the Midwest. So when I was a kid, when it got really cold in the winters, we'd be out at the barn doing our chores, and we have to go in and warm up. And there was a warming house, or a clubhouse, I guess you could call it. And they had a whole bunch of Appaloosa journals. Or at that point in time, the journal was actually called the Appaloosa News. This is way, way back. And it was an Appaloosa facility, and that's how we kind of ended up there. Is we got our first horse and boarded it at that particular location. So we'd go into the warming house, and we just kind of rifle through the journals or the new Appaloosa Newses and look at the pictures of the pretty Appaloosas. You know, what else is a 12-year-old girl going to do? You know, it's cold outside. Let's look at more horses, you know. And I came across an article on the Chief Joseph Trail Ride, and from the moment I saw the pictures and from the moment I read the article, I decided then and there, at some point, my horse was going to walk in the footsteps of his ancestors, and that was my goal.
Wow.
But living in the Midwest, it's a long journey, and I was a kid, so it didn't really happen. It just kind of went on a bucket list, and like so many other people, I talked about doing it, but never really never took the initiative to go out and say, let's conquer this goal. And once I moved out to Whidbey, I met my husband, and he said, it's happening right in our backyard. It's starting its next cycle in Joseph, Oregon. It's starting all over again. Doesn't make sense to start it from the beginning, and it's so close by, you'd be silly not to start. And I looked at him, I go, you're right, why don't we? So that's how it started. And once you go on one of these rides, you don't just go on one. Once you've participated, it becomes a part of you and you have to go again, and it gets an addiction. It's a good addiction though. And you have to go again and again and again. And now for me, when I took my position at my current clinic, which I am now an owner of, my stipulation was I will come work for you, but I must have the third week of July off every single year because I will do the Chief Joseph Trail Ride. I wouldn't take the position until I had that agreement. And now it's just understood.
This is commitment. This is commitment. And I know, I mean, again, Whidbey Island looks amazing, right? And so you're a vet, and so, you know, I was telling Nancy before you came on, I'm like, you know, Kristen's a vet. And I'm sorry, I think I called you Kristen earlier. But Kristen is a vet. And she goes, well, animal or military? And I'm like, you don't know anymore. I'm like, no, veterinarian. Oh, yeah. She goes out there. And this is interesting because I think I want you to kind of comment on that about the horses and how they handle this. And is this something healthy for horses going out there and doing this? Because the Appaloosa, you have to have an Appaloosa because that's what Chief Joseph and the nez-perce were riding, were these Appaloosas. That's part of the heritage and the ancestry. So that is the reason of this. But how are the horses out there? Do you see any like positives for them? And is it a good thing for them health-wise?
Well, you know, health-wise, I mean, you're talking about getting your horse fit so that it can go out on this ride. If you're taking a horse that hasn't been conditioned to go out and handle the elevation changes or to go out and ride for 8 hours, you know, obviously with breaks in between, you shouldn't be taking the horse out there. But as far as, is this healthy for the horse? Is exercise healthy for a person? Yeah, totally, completely. Yeah, and I think it's great for their mental aspect as well. My gelding will come running. If he sees me hook up that trailer, he comes running because he knows a couple things are going to happen. One, he's going on an adventure. Two, he's spending time with me, and time for me it's so limited. So it's one-on-one, him and me. And so, and he's a cuddle bunny and he loves to have me with him. So he knows it's one-on-one, and you know, we're just going out and we're just having a good time. So, and he loves camping. He absolutely loves camping. So you have to have a horse that actually is going to enjoy this. I mean, if you've got a horse that's not, doesn't like to walk in, you know, through water, or doesn't like to get his feet dirty, you know, there's some of those horses that are much happier in an arena than they are out on the trails. He happens to be a retired world champion show horse that didn't really care for the arena and now is thriving out on the trail. So you definitely have to make sure that the horse has the right attitude to be out there, because we are out in the wilderness. We're in the backcountry. If you are halfway out on this ride, it's difficult to say, my horse isn't handling this, let's turn around and go home. You know, it's a big ordeal to get a horse off the trail. That being said, there is a veterinarian that goes out on the ride with us, and I'm not that veterinarian. This is my vacation. I'm actually a small animal vet, so I leave the large animal care to Dr. Dave Sabaki, who is the hired vet for the ride. He's been doing it. He just got his 13-year plaque this year, so that's how long he's been doing it with us. He's an incredible advocate for the horses and makes sure that, you know, if a horse shouldn't be going out, he makes sure the owner knows that. It's always up to the owner if they're going to take that horse out or not. But, you know, we've got some true horsemen on this ride, and they make the right choices, and then those horses will stay in. He actually got the feed changed. When I first started this ride, we were feeding pelleted feed, and it was not doing very well for the horses. And he put his foot down and said, no, we need to do better. And now they have, you know, we're giving them actual roughage. They're getting hay. If a rider wants to bring their own grain, they can do that. And that's what I do. And that way the horses are digestively, they're a lot healthier and they're doing a lot better. So we are looking after them. We're looking after their health. We're obviously, we don't want to go on a death march. These are our beloved friends. We don't want to be taking and leaving them out there because we've ridden them too hard or we haven't managed them properly. You know, these are really important to us. And so we make sure that they're as healthy as they can be before they even get to the ride, and we maintain their health on the ride. And if your horse isn't, I've kept my horse off the trail a couple times because I wasn't happy with where he was physically. You know, he had a rough day the day before, came in a little dehydrated. I'm like, we're staying off the trail today. It's just, you do the right thing.
You have to make those, you make those right decisions. And now the photography, we're excited. We got a video that everyone's going to see. And everyone go to nationalparktraveling.com. You'll see, just type in Chief Joseph Trail and you'll see everything there. And also the feature in Parks and Travel magazine, the October through December issue. What's interesting about this, you're looking at your photos. Number one, you obviously know animals to get those photos, but you also show this community, and it's not like this mass amount of people, but you see it's a decent small sized group of people going out, and you see this community, especially when they go down to the water, you see all these horses and people going out there, and it's like, wow. And it's kind of this interesting thing when you think about Chief Joseph, what he went through and his tribe went through, running the cavalry. I mean, it's like we didn't have time to think about pellets or not. Is it hay or pellets?
Exactly.
That was a completely different thing. But we're in a completely different time frame, different horses, different people. It's all different. But I consider what you guys are doing as living history and bringing awareness to what happened with the nez-perce. And so when you look at that and then you see this community of people, I just go like, there's this shift of thought and feeling just through your photography. I'm like, wow, this is pretty epic watching this and this connection. And the horses seem incredibly connected. I know horses, like Nancy and I were talking about this going through your photos, like horses are herd animals. I understand that, but there's this connectivity that you see with them. I know horses get all dancy and prancy, but there's a settling in time, and you can see that in your photography where the horses settle in to the ride and together as a community.
They do, yeah. People too. I mean, we're we don't always get along,
Right.
But yeah, there's something magical about this ride because you've got horses from all walks of life. You've got people of various life experiences. And we all come together for that one goal. And, if you're coming on this ride just for a trail ride, sure, you'll be happy with it. It's a great trail ride. It's very scenic. But that's not why we're coming. We're coming because of the people on the ride. We're coming because of the culture. We're coming because of the history. And you get enveloped by it all. And we're riding with descendants that were actually in the conflict in 1877.
Wow.
We had one point in time, we were up going, we had just come out of Big Hole. We were going up the Continental Divide, and we're riding along the lodge poles. And everyone's visiting. That's what you do on a trail. We do chat. And a gentleman named Emmett Taylor, and he's nez-perce, and he came up alongside my friend and I and told us a story about how an ancestor had been shot down in that field and on the battlefield, and she had swooped up her baby and ran. Well, the baby ended up dying somewhere up in those lodge poles. And it brings you back to reality. You're like, this isn't just happy little trail. People died. That baby is in this woods somewhere. This is a graveyard. This is a cemetery. And it brings it all back. And you realize this is why we're doing this ride. We're doing this ride to honor those who were left behind. We're doing that to remember those who lost their families and those who have ancestors that have perished, or they lost their lands. They lost everything, So it's kind of, I think about it as a way of just recognizing, remembering. I think there's a lot of, asking for forgiveness, granting forgiveness that goes on this ride. And it's an active process, and it's always, it's a constant thing, and so you get these mood swings, but they're incredible and heartfelt, and they are absolutely real. Yeah.
When your images of the nez-perce that are there, that's the beginning ceremony. You have a young girl, and it looks like she's sitting on a horse, but just like a sunset in the background, and you look at her and you're just like, you're this photo. I'm just telling you, Nancy, you know what photo I'm talking about. We both stopped short at, like,
it kind of says it all.
It is like, it's like she's looking into the past and in the future. It's like this, everything is now, present now, but it's the history is there, the past is there, like whispers are there in her hair, like the whispers of our ancestors. So is she a descendant?
Yeah, I mean, basically, if you're a nez-perce, you are,
you're a descendant, of that.
Yeah, and she is one of the nez-perce. I know which picture you're talking about, where she's very pensive. That was actually taken during the empty saddle ceremony, actually. So I always have this conflict of taking pictures during that, because I feel I don't want to disrespect, and I don't want to disregard, and so I'll snap. I actually don't take as many pictures during that ceremony as maybe I would for a different event, simply because I don't want that shutter constantly going. I'll see something and I want to take that moment, but I'm very careful about how, like I said, I just don't want to intrude. But her expression it just said everything to me, and I couldn't help myself. So, so she was, I'm sure, looking, and I can't ask, I don't know, I didn't ask her, but I would imagine just the picture makes it look like she is looking towards the past, and obviously maybe remembering who they're honoring, maybe remembering somebody that she lost, maybe remembering ancestors. So, but
she's so young and yet so wise, like pensive.
It's a beautiful photo.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about the Appaloosa horse itself, because it seems to me there's no, from the layman's side, no real, how do you identify what is an Appaloosa? How do you know when you're looking at an Appaloosa? Because we're like, oh, wow, they all look different.
They all look beautiful.
They all look different.
No, but you can't really tell. Like, a Dalmatian has spots, but now you're looking at, How do you know when you have an Appaloosa?
Once you're kind of in the Appaloosa world, you recognize all the patterns. But I like to think of Appaloosas as being like a fingerprint. Each one is its own unique individual in appearance and in personality. But they have so many color patterns. I can't even begin to tell you all of them. Probably the most common would be the blanket, which is where they've got a solid color on the front and then a white spotted bottom. And sometimes they don't have to have spots on their bum. They could just have the white bum. That would be called a
It's all about the horse butt.
It's all about the butt. With the Appaloosas, that's why most of my pictures you'll see. First of all, the Appaloosa is so colorful, and they were so much of their color on their back end that I tend to take a lot of rear end photos. The other reason is my horse is slow, so I'm usually at the back of the trail behind everybody else. So when we're doing pictures of the whole group going up a line, you usually are if I've taken the photo, you can usually tell because it's taken from the behind. But they come in so many color patterns, and then they change. I had a filly when she was 2. She was solid brown with a black mane and tail. That's called a bay. And then by the age 3, she had completely shed out. And as I was shedding her, I'm looking, and underneath all this brown hair, there's white hair. And I'm like, what? And I started just brushing. And within 3 days, we had that filly mostly shed out. And she went from being dark brown with a black mane and tail to white with black spots. And I believe her mane was white. Yeah, completely changed. So that's the fun thing about an Appaloosa is you just never know, what you're going to get. And then once you've got it, you don't know if they're going to stay that way. They tend to get a lot lighter as they age. That's called roaning. But they come in so many colors. They can be solid with little spots all over them, little white spots all over them. They can be white with little black or red spots all over them. Those would be leopards. I can't even, I'd be sitting here for an hour telling you all the color patterns, and they don't even need spots at all. They could be solid.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, because I read somewhere a long time ago that the hoofs are like, that's where you're going to really tell if you have an Appaloosa. Is that true or not?
You can tell those other things. Yeah. So Appaloosas have other characteristics. So even if they don't have colored hair, colored skin, you can see they'll have, on the line of colored skin, they can have mottling, mottling. I kind of muddle that one and it comes out weird. But so they can have mottled skin, which means their skin is pigmented both pink and gray. So if you look at areas where they have shorter hair, so like their muzzle, everyone loves to touch their muzzle because it's so soft, that will have the mottling around their eyes. You can look in their ears, and then around the nether regions, little boy parts, curl parts, they'll have them back there too. They will have their hooves will be striped. So on your typical horse, like a quarter horse or a thoroughbred, if you've got a solid leg, there's no white on that leg at all, that hoof is going to be gray. if they've got a white sock on their leg, or their leg is white, then their hooves are going to be like a creamy color. And then if they've got a mixture, then they'll have, so if they've got a little bit, like say they've got a little color on their heel, then their heel would be gray, and then their white sock would make a creamy hoof. But the Appaloosa is different in that it doesn't matter what color the hair is above the hoof, that horse is going to have striped hooves. So they'll have stripes, gray and cream, throughout. So one of the things when we show Appaloosas in the show ring, we don't hoof black them. And that's one of the things, like putting fingernail polish on your fingernails that make them look prettier. Yeah. Well, in the show ring, a lot of people will take hoof black and put it on their horse's hooves because it makes their hooves look nicer. But because the Appaloosa's characteristic is to have striped hooves, we actually use clear polish on ours because we want to accentuate those stripes. Wow. So that's another characteristic.
What about the paintballs? I always get paintballs and Appaloosas. I always thought they were like the same. I think we get confused, or I do. Yeah. To me, well, the paintballs.
You're talking about the paint? Are you talking about paints or pintos? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's it. It's a pinto. That's exactly it. I'm like, they're a paintball. Well, paintball, not paintball. Like, we're gonna go play paintball.
Right.
But yeah, there's the painted ponies or skew balls.
Yeah. So paint. Yeah, the paints and pintos. Pinto is a color, paint is a breed. But they have similar coloration. So what a paint horse or a pinto would have would be big, huge splotches on them. So it looks like someone took some paint and dumped it on them.
Yeah.
So the bigger splotches. Where an Appaloosa typically will have smaller circular spots. Even if they have snowflakes, they're smaller circular spots. A paint is more big splotches, I guess. So it's kind of something you have to see. Once you see it, you've got it. But
no, I got it now. Now, thank you, because I'll get my terminology all into normal words here at some point. But that's the thing. I think this is what's so interesting about this trail and having these conversations. There's things we all have in the back of our mind that we really don't know if we're not out there doing it and we're not around the horses all the time. Nancy and I have had horse time, but that was in South Africa, and it was a completely different experience.
Different.
We had rescue horses, and we were riding through old game reserves, which was interesting because you would ride with warthogs. It was different. and monkeys. That was a whole other thing. My horse didn't like that. But
no, I can't imagine they would.
But I did grow up with horses in my room everywhere. Like every horse calendar got torn up and plastered. Like I had the Hall of Fame of horses when you walked in. And if you ask me about painted pintos versus Appaloosa horses when I was like 12, I would be able to give you the rundown of everything. Like I was so like, how many of us girls, and I think it's a lot of us girls, right, had horses in our room. There was a horse, there's a female horse thing. I know there's dudes and horses, but there's a girl horse thing that happens. We all want
teenage age.
My little niece is into them right now. There's something about, they're so romantic, I think is maybe what it is, and just so beautiful and majestic. What little girl wouldn't want to have a horse?
I know. They're so awesome.
Yeah.
Now, your photography.
When guys go do sports, girls do horses.
But guys are into horses. You got your wranglers on the trail that are like setting up the camps and everything. But you got your dudes, you got your cowboys. You think about it. Chief Joseph, he's a dude. He was a badass. He was a badass. But I wanted to ask you about your photography. Where did that start for you? Because is it part of being a vet that you understand the animals, you know where to look, you get that sensibility, you know where they're going to move next?
No, you know what? I think a lot of veterinarians are actually very creative individuals, just because the way our brains have to think. Because I know a lot of my colleagues who are artists, painters, photographers, writers. For me, I've always loved art, so I've always drawn. I do every media. I sculpt. I just like to use my imagination and my brain. I write fiction. I write nonfiction. So yeah, my brain's constantly working, and So when I received my first camera when I was younger, that was back in the days of film. So it's really hard to perfect your skills when you don't have the money to develop your film. So it kind of, everything came together on my first Chief Joseph trail ride because I purchased a digital camera and because I wanted to be able to capture some memories. And as I went out there, it seemed like every time I turned around, there was another picture that needed to be taken. It just, everything was just all framed out perfectly. I'm like, gotta grab that. And when I got back from the ride, I'm like, I gotta get a better camera. So that's kind of how it all started. And I actually sent a couple of photos to the Appaloosa Journal and said, hey, you guys want to use these for promotion? I'm more than happy to share them. And a new relationship was formed. And I've been taking photos for them, for the Appaloosa Horse Club, the Appaloosa Journal, their publications, their advertising, mostly centered around the Chief Joseph Trail Ride. But I do other, like portrait type photos and stuff as well that I've sent them. I've been taking photos in that for probably 10 years for them. And for me, it's fun. It's a break from having to think analytically. That lets me use the other part of my brain, the creative aspect of it. And I love to see the other people enjoying them. I try to tell a story with every picture I take. And my personal favorites are the ones that I go out with my zoom lens at lunchtime and sneak up on people. They wouldn't even know I took their picture. But you get the pictures of you capture the moments where someone's bonding with their horse, and you see that relationship between the two of them. And I just love to capture that. So it's basically telling a story. So that's how it kind of started and grew. And for me, I don't even make money off my photography, at least not right now. I donate my photos. I donate the images. So what I do is all my images go to the Appaloosa Horse Club for use in advertising. So if I can promote through my photography and show more people about this breed that I absolutely adore, and I've never had any other breed. I wouldn't. They're near and dear to my heart. I wouldn't have anything else. So if I can promote this breed and get more people interested in them, that's my passion. So I don't make any money on it. I just let them use it. And then after every Chief Joseph Trail Ride, I actually put together a collection of my photos, and I do sell them per se. It's basically a donation. Any money that I make off of my memory sticks for taking photos on the Chief Joseph Trail Ride and then giving it to the participants goes to the Chief Joseph Foundation, and it funds the riding program. This past year, between my regional Appaloosa club, and then money I was able to raise through the sales of the photography, it actually purchased an entire riding ensemble for one of their lesson horses, because they have lesson horses for all these kids, but they don't have enough tack for all the lesson horses. So we were able to actually go out and buy a saddle, a breast collar, a bridle, reins, saddle bags, a saddle pads, girths, everything that they needed to outfit a single horse so that they'd have an additional horse they'd be able to ride that they might not otherwise be able to do. Wow. And at this point so far, with the proceeds that we've gotten from the memory sticks for this year, and this is on unedited photos, I haven't even edited them. So I'm sure that once they're edited, we'll actually have more sales. I've raised enough to purchase half of that again. So I'm hoping by the time next year rolls around, we'll have the additional monies raised so we can repeat that gift.
So let me ask you this, because we have connections with the wild horse kind of people. Do you think that horses have come from North America, or do you think the Spanish brought them over? I'm looking at the Appaloosa and I'm looking, I'm like, yeah. Well, you don't have to answer if you don't want to.
I'm all like Nancy had to go there.
I know, but because it's theory, right? Like it's like, I mean, I personally will go with, I think any animal and any person should always be treated with kindness and respect no matter what. I don't care about politics and all that. I just wonder, exactly. So, this thing about were the horses wild, the Spanish bring them over and all that. What do you think?
Well, there's been a recent discovery that has kind of changed the way a lot of us are thinking on this. because the theory has been that horses were brought over by the Spanish. And yes, they were brought over by the Spanish, but were there some here already? And I'm kind of taking that belief now, because they have found in caves in Europe, they have found paintings of spotted horses. They've actually found ancient tissues of horses, spotted horses, and they found the LP gene within that DNA. The LP gene is what makes an Appaloosa. So if we have Appaloosas here in North America, and the Spanish took really good records, and there's no records of them bringing any spotted horses, not pintos maybe, but not Appaloosa spotted horses. Yeah. There's no records of Appaloosa spotted horses coming over on a boat. So how else did they get over here? We know there was a land bridge.
Right.
And we know that people came over that way.
Yeah, we had camels.
We've had a relationship. Yeah. Great. I mean, we've had a relationship with horses for a while. So, and even if we didn't have that relationship, there's no reason why a horse couldn't walk across that land bridge. So I'm starting to think that these spotted horses we've got here, our Appaloosas, actually do trace back to other sides of the ocean.
Because when you look at their body structure, and then you look at like a thoroughbred quarter horse or whatever, you're like, that's totally different.
Well, I've photographed.
Oh yeah, but man's
horses.
done that, you know. I mean, we manipulate breed. I mean, look at what we've done with dogs. We got bulldogs. That doesn't occur in the wild.
Exactly.
You know?
Right.
When you look at a wolf and then you go Chihuahua, you're like, okay,
right? How'd that happen? Yeah, right.
No, but it's interesting photographing wild horses out in Nevada, and unfortunately, I don't have all my photographs anymore, because like when we went on the tour, we're like, those on high def, like get rid of them. Now I'm like, dude, what the heck was I doing?
Yeah.
But I thought, no, but it's not like I still have some. But going out there were some with spots, and
that's exactly
it was
what I was
really interesting going out there. And there were some that were all roans, you know, and there was this. I know that they have them in Namibia and you know, places that we lived in South Africa and stuff, but there's this freedom of them. And I remember being in the Vermilion Cliffs years and years ago out in northwest, or I was going to say, northwest Arizona and into Utah, and these horses being wild, like, and I was like, oh my God, if we trespassed again on some rancher's territory, you know, going around. And it turned out we were like seeing some of the last wild horses in that region, and they were of all colors, and it wasn't like because we were going, these horses are healthy, and they were living off the land, and we were like, they obviously someone, and then we're like, there's nobody out here. We're in the Vermilion Cliffs. You know, there's condors, and you know, we watched that all at the same time. It was the craziest day, and I'm like looking at these horses, going, there's this freedom you could see in their eyes. I know that people say, oh, they're feral and all that, but there was this something that was like ancient, and I can't explain that other than going through your photos. I felt the same connection of ancient spirits, and I think you can probably find that in most animals, but there's this, I can't explain it. There's this thing that I believe that we're supposed to feel, that it's so strong that we're supposed to feel that we are part of this. And I think that's interesting, because I always look at things like, oh, we have to have this breed and that breed and that breed, and you know, don't, you know, breed your animals this way and that. I know you're a veterinarian, and there's puppy mills and things like that, so I don't want to get into all that, but I always go like, hey, adopt an animal, do that. But then the Appaloosa Club comes into our lives, and the Chief Joseph Trail Ride comes in, and I've had to take a very strong step, like out of my zone of like, oh, we need to rescue all animals and not care about their breed, and think in a different way. And I really appreciate that when it happens. And I think that's what's really interesting, just really looking at your photos and looking at the spirit of the horse, and just even our own, you know, traipsing out in the wilderness and photographing wild horses, there's a connection there. And I find that interesting, because it's taking me for a ride of like, nothing's in solid. That's why there's spots. You know what I mean?
We have a tendency, we have a tendency to look at the spiritual and the instinctual, and we want to kind of tone it down because we're intellectual. And because we've developed over time, we've developed certain parts of our brain and we've lost certain parts of our brain. We still have a lot of our instinct. Think about when you meet somebody and you're not sure about them, the hair on the back of your neck stands up and you're unsure. That's your instinctual part. The horses still have that. And I think there is a lot of that mental connection that they have. I don't really want to call it telepathy because that sounds kooky, but I think there is some sort of that unspoken connection. I can actually look at my dog in an obedience class when I'm training her, and I can think, you can see she's not going to sit. I can think really hard, sit.
I know,
and that
right?
dog will sit, right? So
but then
I'm a scientist, so it's really hard to talk this way, but right?
Yeah,
no, the dog will turn
communicate.
and look at you and go, "Why'd you make me do that?"
You can communicate.
Think about a dog that can tell when you're going to have a seizure. How do they know that?
Yeah.
How do they know when they can sense? And horses too, they can sense when there's an earthquake or some natural disaster coming. They're in tune with different parts of their brain, right? So I do feel the same way you do, that there's some sort of sense within them that I don't know how much of their history they know they have, but I do know when you get horses together and they haven't seen each other. I've got one that he sees his buddy only once a year and yet he recognizes him. So we don't give these animals enough credit. And I don't want to anthropomorphize because I've gotten chastised for that. I think they do have feelings personally. And I think we're egotistical to say that they don't. But there is something inside of these guys that we don't understand or we don't want to understand.
Right. And I think
they have that connection.
But it's interesting about keeping the breed pure, of making sure. No, that's what I wanted to make a point on that, because there's a lot of us who go, okay, who cares about breeds anymore? Just adopt animals. And we're looking at going, are we all this side or that side? And I think people are scrambling to do the right thing. And you can't be all one or the other. And I think this is what's been really interesting, because we've just done so many radio shows on puppy mills and stuff. And it's just like, oh my God. And what's happening to horses over here and, animals over there, that you just want to stop everything. But what is going on with the Chief Joseph Trail Ride and the Appaloosas has made me like balance out a little bit. Let me put it that way, of understanding like there's heritage and like I said, this is living history. And understanding that this could be like our breed that was like here years and years ago. It's interesting, and maybe it is, maybe it isn't, and at the end of the day, you got to think, this is again what Chief Joseph and nez-perce were writing. These are their companions at that time. And they have to be their companions to have been going through it. They were all running for their lives at that time. All of them. Horses and humans. United.
It was a group effort at that point, And these horses lived with the tribe. They were in camp with them. The kids ran underneath and through their legs. They were gentle. They were loved, You're a partner. And you don't ride into battle on an animal that doesn't trust you.
Exactly. And you don't do the trail without knowing your horse or connecting with it. I know that Christy helps people like with horses, and she's like, you can, connect with a horse and go on this, but that horse has to be ready. She's very, Christy Wood, man.
I know Christy. Yeah.
She's not going to let you mess with her horse. That's not happening.
You've got to be ready to ride that horse, and the horse has to be mentally and physically ready for sure. Yeah.
At the end of the day, people wouldn't have pets if animals didn't have feelings. They wouldn't have pets. Why would you have something in your household like a cat or a dog?
If you didn't have that bond.
You wouldn't have pets if animals didn't have feelings and you didn't recognize that in them. You wouldn't have them. It's simple.
There would be no reason to. I mean, how else are you going to get that bond? It's not a plant that's just sitting there, right?
Yeah.
They interact with you. Yeah. No, I'm preaching to the choir.
Okay, but I'm going to tell you that plants do feel that, because you can meditate with plants and do things that are crazy. But anyway, I don't want to get all woo-woo and weird on people. But
No,
but you know,
oh boy.
but before you go, Kristen, you were talking about raising funds. Is there a place that people can go, a website that people can go and work with you on your photos to raise funds? What can people, where can people go?
Well, we're actually kind of more formally doing the fundraising on my regional Appaloosa club, with my regional Appaloosa club. And I just, as far as the photos go, if someone's interested in my photos, they can contact me through Facebook, just by messaging me, Kristen-Reiter. There's an Appaloosa, it's my little, profile picture.
She's a writer.
Mm-hmm. I know. Do you know Reiter? It's a German name. It's R-E-I-T-E-R, and it actually means, well, my husband was telling me it means thief on horseback in German. So I hope I'm not the first part of that, but sure, on horseback, definitely. So, so it's actually kind of funny. But yeah, so if you wanted to contact me through Messenger, Kristen-Reiter, my icon or my profile picture is a picture of me on my Appaloosa in front of the American flag. It actually was taken at Bear Paw as we completed our 13-year journey. So certainly contact me through there. Or if you want to contact us through the Regional Appaloosa Club on our Facebook group page, that's Western Washington Regional Appaloosa Club. And we're doing a lot of fundraising on that. That's where most of the funds for that saddle came from this year. So those would probably be the best two connections. If anyone's interested in my photography, I'm kind of flexible on it. You tell me what you want, and if you're interested in photos from this year's Chief Joseph Trail Ride, I'd like to edit them before I distribute them outside of the participants from the ride. So they'll probably be ready more like February. But there's going to be a lot of really nice pictures in there. I will be updating the photos on the Facebook page too, so you can kind of get a sampling of what I've done.
And now you've got a new Facebook page, everyone. It's Images from the Saddle. So Images from the Saddle on Facebook. Go there. Again, for more about the Chief Joseph Trail Ride, go to appaloosa.com. And we've also covered it on nationalparktraveling.com. So just type in Chief Joseph Trail Ride, and it will be featured in the October through December issue of Parks and Travel magazine. And you'll see, you'll see Kristen's beautiful photos and her interview there, as well as our interview with Christy and everybody else too. We had Steve and Andy and Erwin, and so we did ask them this one thing. We had a couple fun questions, but I'm going to ask you this: you're going to go on a 1-hour ride, horse ride. We have a 1-hour walk Facebook group. We're all about getting people outside every day, You're going to take a 1-hour horse ride, and just so you can connect with somebody else that you want to meet and talk to and get some knowledge or just emotionally bond with, who are you going to go on that 1-hour ride with? And, they could be alive or passed on. Who would it be, and what would you talk about, and where would it be?
Well, that's an emotional question.
I know. I didn't tell you that we were going to ask you that. We do that to people. It's a pop-up. It's the end of conversation pop-up. No, it's just fun. It's fun. Who are you going to take a horse ride with? Yeah.
It'd be the same person that anyone asks if you could talk to somebody again. It'd be my mom.
Oh.
I lost her when I was in my 3rd year in vet school to cancer.
Oh.
She had fought for 7 years breast cancer and lost her battle, and so I missed out on having her in high school, basically, when she was diagnosed. So it was a tough battle.
Yeah.
So if I was only granted 1 hour with her, I'd almost want somewhere with no distractions. But I have a trail close to my home that it's kind of my solace. It's where I go when I'm feeling down or feeling overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. I would either take her to my little hidey hole, the Hoypus Trails and Deception Pass here on Whidbey Island.
Oh yeah.
Or I would probably go to if I could go anywhere I possibly could, I would probably return to Sunlight Basin in Wyoming. That's the most beautiful place I have ever been, up on the ridge, looking across just into the valleys and all the mountains around you, and the peace. And I don't know, I think it's the closest I've ever felt to any spirituality, and maybe that'd be where it'd be an appropriate place to be with somebody who's passed away. And, so she'd be more comfortable being halfway here on earth and still close to where she's come from. I hope anyways. And what would we talk about? An hour is not long enough,
No, you can take as long as you want. It's your horse ride. You can do. We won't limit you, but I think that, number one, Whidbey Island, like just everything that our travel writers have brought back, I'm just like, seriously, we need to go now. And then, looking at the Nez-Perce National Historic Trail, I mean, it's Oregon, Idaho, Wyoming, and Montana, and the photos that you, shared with us, and thank you for doing that. I mean, there's just something so big about the skies. I mean, I know we're here in Tucson, Arizona, and we have big skies, but there's something really big and skies. Beautiful and spiritual and just wide open. It kind of it's humbling. It's humbling. Your photos are very humbling. That's it. That's the word. And, so I think that you could go to two places and do it all, For
sure.
You can do whatever you want. It's our show. We can let anybody do what they want. We can play God and go, hey, you can take this road here. You can do this. We can give you $1 million. You won't see it, but we'll give it to you. But no. But really, thank you for sharing your photos and joining us on today's show and talking about the Chief Joseph Trail Ride. I think it's so much bigger than what we initially thought. I mean, at the first few times talking to Christy was just mind-blowing, just mind-blowing and heart-blowing. And it just is part of our heart and part of our history. And so thank you for doing it, and thank you for the photos. Everyone, again, appaloosa.com. Go there, go to Images from the Saddle on Facebook, and keep up with Kristen. It's Kristen-Reiter, R-E-I-T-E-R, and Kristen, K-R-I-S-T-E-N. Not Kirsten, as I said. I don't know. I have a friend that's Kirsten, and I just keep wanting to call you Kirsten. I'm sorry. But anyway.
No, when you have a name like Kristen, you go by whatever.
I know. No. I like Kristen. But yeah. But thank you for joining us. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor of today's segment is the National Parks Arts Foundation. They are awesome. What they do is they put artists, which could be photographers, musicians, filmmakers, poets, writers, into a national park unit for a month where you get to create. I'm just saying, Kristen.
Hello.
Would you like to go photograph for a month in a park? Anyway, go to nationalparksartsfoundation.org and also keep up with our shows with them every first Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern time. We interview an artist in residence with them, and it's amazing. You can go. We're doing a lot in the Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, believe it or not, even though part of it is closed down. There's another segment that is open, and we've done Gettysburg, Chaco culture out in New Mexico, dry tortugas out in Florida, so in the Florida Keys. So it's an awesome experience. So again, nationalparksartsfoundation.org. So I'm just saying, Kristen, I'm going to send you that link. Ned.
Because the time.
I know, right? You already do the Chief Joseph Trail Ride. How long does it take per leg? Like when you do it, is it a full week?
Yeah, we ride 5 days. So we try to do about 100 miles every year when we go out.
And when you come back, do you sleep for a day?
No, because you got to unload the trailer, clean it out,
Yes.
No, we try to relax a little bit. Yeah.
I know. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Again, Images from the Saddle on Facebook, and we've got a special song for you. It's called Great Blue Sky. And this is from Everin Ozan, a Native American flute player, NAMI award-winning, and just amazing. At such a young age, started playing the Native American flute. Like he got it 9 years old.
Yeah.
In the Grand Canyon, and now he's a pilot and flying around and doing all kinds of things and skateboarding. But everybody, this is from his last album, or latest, I should say, As Things Could Be, and it's Great Blue Sky, and you can keep up with him at ozanmusic.com. Thanks so much, Kristen. You take care.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a joy.